In a world where hopium and common sense collide, starring the CryptoKeeper and BlockchainCrusader. Welcome to Debate Crypto. Question everything, trust nothing. It's your boys, CryptoKeeper, BlockchainCrusader in the house. To debate crypto. Dude, tonight, question everything. Sorry, I'm trying to move my phone around here to try to
Tonight, it's going to get real sleepy in here.
It's going to get sleepy up in here. Yeah, you know what? I ultimately, you said to me, you know, am I going to be a neutral party? I am going to try my best this evening to listen. But here's what I want to do, Miguel. And I think we should do this. I think we should listen to the message tonight. I'm going to take notes. I've got a notepad sitting right here, and I want to see what is said that's going to affect the crypto space, because ultimately, you know, obviously we want to know more than that, but politically, all of this stuff does affect us, right? Directly or indirectly in one type of way. And so I want to try to not get into the feelings and the things that I mean, you know what I mean?
I completely agree, right? We definitely need to stay objective about what's happening and what words are they saying and what is that going to affect the crypto market. Like I cannot confirm, I haven't validated this is true or not, but I did see a little something about Hillary Clinton coming out saying that she was very disappointed that the crypto exchanges were denying the request to cancel out the Russian accounts.
Oh yeah.
Right? So we're already seeing the political pressure. Elizabeth Warren also came out saying that they were very let me actually have the tweet. I'm actually going to look up the tweet and I can read it to you, so that way I'm not just putting, just talking out of my behind. So the tweet was, give me a second here.
Yeah, you know, I think there's going to be a lot going on this evening. I think that we are going to see, and I want to tell everybody in the chat, we're going to try to be as objective as possible tonight. We're going to listen. We'll probably pause it a few times here and there and kind of talk through some things, but I really am going to try my best to just be that objective, right? Let's absorb.
So
let's talk through it later. Yeah. Well, what's the tweet? What's the second?
Here it is. I'm going to share my screen so everybody can see it.
Smash the likes, guys. Make sure you guys subscribe too.
It says, cryptocurrencies risk undermining sanctions against Russia, allowing Putin and his cronies to evade economic pain. U.S. financial regulators need to take this threat seriously and increase their scrutiny of digital dirty assets.
She might have
added the word dirty in there, but
she's such a hag, dude. Let me tell you something. First of all, TikTok, screw you, because I went from 100 people to 20 now that I've got it facing the freaking YouTube. This algorithm catches it every freaking. I didn't even say the word, right? So TikTok, TikTok, I love you guys, but I'm gonna turn this off right now. So check us out. Listen, check us out. Debate Crypto. You see it right here. Debate Crypto on YouTube. I'm just going to call it out now since they're kicking everybody off of here.
Yeah,
come check us out right now.
I'm going to be sharing the video that I saw about Hillary over here as well.
Yeah, let's see it.
Talking about
can impose enough economic pain on
Can you hear that?
Putin and sadly the Russian people, combined with providing weapons, that might be the only way that right now I can see us getting to a stalemate that might save the Ukrainian people from even greater tragedy. That is a possible way out.
Oh, actually, this is not the one I was talking about. Never mind.
Okay, hey, check this out. It's I think it's happening right now. Let's
Oh, is it starting? Is the show starting?
Let's see what's happening here.
Oh, look at this. Janet Yellen just walking in.
No telling Yellen. Hold on, I'm about to turn up the volume here. I've got my bad. I had the volume.
Got 1 minute. Put it full screen.
I'm going to. Can you see it okay?
Yep. Perfecto.
Hey, you know how many smiles there are going on right now, and they're all thinking, "You son of a," you know what I mean?
Between each other. You know what I'm realizing is, I guess the fog around the world has disappeared, because I don't see those little magical devices that people wear that prevent this whole situation from happening.
One guy's got one on. I see him.
Yeah, let's not say the word, but you know, if you know, you know.
He's the one.
Oh, there you go. I'm glad that guy's keeping everybody else safe.
I know. Thank you for doing your part, sir.
There's only like 100 other people around him with nothing.
My wife always gets mad at me when I see somebody in their car with, you know, like they're by themselves in their car, and I'm like, thank you for doing your part.
What's up, everybody in the chat? See all you guys. I greatly appreciate you guys showing up. Smash the likes, guys. Hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed just yet. And drop a 1 if you think this meeting is going to end up being bullish for crypto. Drop a 2 if you think this is going to be a big nothing burger.
Hey guys, let's have some fun. Let's oh, there she is. That crooked woman. She is
man.
She's the worst. Look at this woman running up. She got tennis shoes on. She's with it.
She's ready to go. She is ready to go. But so I don't know if a lot of people caught my video from earlier today, but there has been crazy things happening with Russia. I'm just gonna be filling them in a little bit. You guys should definitely go watch the video.
I'll turn this down for right now.
That this starts.
For what? Like what?
So, dude, the amount of volume coming from Russia, from rubles to Bitcoin on exchanges, they're paying a
premium.
A $20,000 premium on Bitcoin. If you do the math on that, that's pretty much back up at $63,000 Bitcoin. A $20,000 premium on Bitcoin.
Are they blocking and denying transactions at this point?
I don't know if they're blocking or anything, but I just assume the exchanges don't have enough Bitcoin in Russia to sell to these people, and they understand the dynamic that's happening, and they're just gonna, you know, they're increasing the price. Same thing happened with North Korea back in 2016, or they used to call it the Kamichi premium.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, man, it's wild. So guys, if you guys haven't caught that video yet, it's the video right before this one in our channel. I forgot what I named it. It was something to do with massive news about Russia and Bitcoin. Right before this one, just about 4 hours ago or so. Definitely go watch it. It's only like 18 minutes long, worth every minute.
It looks like they are waiting for the commander-in-chief to walk in. He's kind of like Miguel, running a few minutes late at all times. So
always fashionably on time.
Is that what they call it these days? Fashionably on time. You know what? I am looking forward to hear what they talk about economically tonight. Obviously, we want to talk about, we want to hear about everything, but I'm interested to hear if we all right. So let's what's the over under, chat? What's the over under? Let's do a 1 in the chat.
I don't think they know what the over under is.
Well, let's just put a 1 in the chat if you believe that crypto will be actually talked about by word. Is the word crypto going to enter the scene tonight? 1 in the chat if you think so. 2 in the chat if you think that won't come out of Joe Biden's mouth.
I think the word crypto is gonna have to be mentioned at some point in this chat today.
Yeah. So somebody's gonna say it, right? But I don't think Joe Biden will say it as part of his State of the Union. I'm betting against it.
Joel, your question about the 20,000 ruble or dollars, in the article that I read, it said $20,000 with a dollar sign. Was that a typo? Was that a mistake? I don't know. But that's what it was said.
Heidi, thank you very much for the super chat. You're always supporting the channel. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, their ruble currency has dropped like 30% overnight. So yeah, they're definitely going to be experiencing some massive hyperinflation.
Crypto hodler, are you saying 10-to-1 odds that it doesn't get said or that it does get said? I'm curious to see which way you're saying 10-to-1 odds. I don't think Joe Biden's going to say it, but I do believe that it will get brought up as a topic at some point. Yeah, I guess we shall see. We shall.
I'm so glad all these guys are have their little Ukrainian flag. They're doing a lot right there already. A lot there.
Did you see everybody was hugging them and just, I don't know, man. I just I don't know. I feel
do you think crazy speculation before this starts, will this escalate to a world war? Like, would you think it's gonna actually escalate to something like that?
I mean, it's gonna take somebody taking a drastic step against Russia, where Russia then violates the UN in some way. That's what's gonna have to happen.
Well, according to my dad, he watches the Hispanic channel news down here, right? Gets all the news from South America and whatever, all that
from the
stuff.
Hispanics. Yeah,
Right.
gotcha.
What's happening was, according to my dad, this is not verified. This is highly speculative because I don't know if it's true or not. But this is what he said he heard on the news in Spanish, that there were 2 military planes landing in Venezuela, or yeah, it was Venezuela, I believe, that were the special type of airplanes that carry nuclear armaments. And obviously that is a giant violation and of what's going on. And that's what was said. And obviously, that were to be true, then Colombia will probably have to get involved or some
Here we go.
some course. Okay, here we go, Sleepy Joe. They gave him his vitamins. He's awake.
Okay, let's see. Maybe. Let's see, and then I'll give you what he said.
What's everybody here for? Somebody's birthday?
Might as well, man. Everybody's screaming surprise when you walk into the door. Somebody in the chat said that CBS reported this for the last 10 to 20 years. Absolutely. Absolutely not. I don't believe that happens unless it escalates to some crazy world to war or something. Either Ukraine loses or Ukraine wins. There's no way it's going to last pretty much. That's what we call flood.
How are you? Thank you.
Alejandro asking, what does this have to do with crypto? My man, of course this directly affects crypto. What he says here will reflect what's going to happen with the situation between Russia and Ukraine, and that will obviously affect Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies.
Anything geopolitically ultimately does trickle down, whether it be a direct effect or just a trickle down to the markets. So I'm interested to hear what he says. Can you guys hear okay, Miguel?
I hear it fine.
Drop a 1 in the chat if you can hear this just fine.
Members of Congress, I have the high privilege and distinct honor of presenting to you the President of the United States.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you, General. Thank you.
Casey, greatly appreciate the super chat, man. We do it for all of you guys on here every day, all day.
Thank you all very, very much.
Very appreciate the support, man.
Yeah, thank you, Casey. We really appreciate it.
Please. Thank you so much. Madam Speaker, Madam Vice President, our First Lady and Second Gentleman, members of Congress and the Cabinet, Justices of the Supreme Court, my fellow Americans. Last year, COVID-19 kept us apart. This year, we're finally together again. Tonight...
Wait, did something change?
Tonight, we meet as Democrats, Republicans, and Independents, but most importantly, as Americans, with the duty to one another, to America, to the American people, to the Constitution, and an unwavering resolve that freedom will always triumph over tyranny. Thank you.
understand the excitement. This guy has said nothing.
6 days ago, Russia's Vladimir Putin sought to shake the very foundations of the free world, thinking he could make it bend to his menacing ways. But he badly miscalculated. He thought he could roll into Ukraine and the world would roll over. Instead, he met with a wall of strength he never anticipated or imagined. He met the Ukrainian people. And President Zelensky, to every Ukrainian, their fearlessness, their courage, their determination literally inspires the world. Groups of citizens blocking tanks with their bodies. Everyone from students to retirees to teachers, turned soldiers defending their homeland. And in this struggle, President Zelensky said in his speech to the European Parliament, "Light will win over darkness." The Ukrainian ambassador to the United States is here tonight, sitting with the First Lady. Let each of us, if you're able to stand and send an unmistakable signal to the world of Ukraine. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. She's bright, she's strong, and she's resolved.
Who is this?
I think I missed it. But
Is that-
obviously Ukraine is something important.
Yes. We, the United States of America, stand with the Ukrainian people. Throughout our history, we've learned this lesson. When dictators do not pay a price for their aggression, they cause more chaos. They keep moving, and the cost, the threats to America and America to the world keeps rising. That's why the NATO alliance was created, to secure peace and stability in Europe after World War II. The United States is a member, along with 29 other nations. It matters. American diplomacy matters. American resolve matters. Putin's latest attack on Ukraine was premeditated and totally unprovoked. He rejected repeated efforts at diplomacy. He thought the West and NATO wouldn't respond. He thought he could divide us at home, in this chamber, in this nation. He thought he could divide us in Europe as well. But Putin was wrong. We are ready. We are united, and that's what we did. We stayed united. We prepared extensively and carefully. We spent months building coalitions of other freedom-loving nations in Europe and the Americas, from America to the Asian and African continents, to confront Putin. Like many of you, I spent countless hours unifying our European allies. We shared with the world in advance what we knew Putin was planning and precisely how he would try to falsify and justify his aggression. We countered Russia's lies with the truth. And now that he's acted, the free world is holding him accountable, along with 27 members of the European Union, including France, Germany, Italy, as well as countries like the United Kingdom, Canada, Japan, Korea, Australia, New Zealand, and many others. Even Switzerland are inflicting pain on Russia and supporting the people of Ukraine. Putin is now isolated from the world more than he has ever been. Together,
when he says isolated, they mean monetarily. They have sanctioned this country and taken it off the SWIFT system, not allowing to negotiate and make any money at all. This didn't even happen in the war of 1945.
We are right now enforcing powerful economic sanctions. We're cutting off Russia's largest banks from the international financial system, preventing Russia's central bank from defending the Russian ruble, making Putin's $630 billion war fund worthless. We're choking Russia's access. We're choking Russia's access to technology that will sap its economic strength and weaken its military for years to come. Tonight, I say to the Russian oligarchs and the corrupt leaders who built billions of dollars off this violent regime, no more. The United States, I mean it.
This dude down here is like, I ain't getting up.
The United States Department of Justice is assembling a dedicated task force to go after the crimes of the Russian oligarchs. We're joining with European allies to find and seize their yachts, their luxury apartments, their private jets. We're coming for your ill-begotten gains. And
Oh, like Nancy Pelosi's?
I'm announcing that we will join our
okay.
allies in closing off American airspace to all Russian flights, further isolating Russia and adding additional squeeze on their economy.
Ill-begotten gains.
He has no idea what's coming. The ruble has already lost 30% of its value. The Russian stock market has lost 40% of its value, and trading remains suspended. The Russian economy is reeling, and Putin alone is the one to blame. Together with our allies, we're providing support to the Ukrainians in their fight for freedom. Military assistance, economic assistance, humanitarian assistance. We're giving more than $1 billion of direct assistance to Ukraine, and will continue to aid the Ukrainian people as they defend their country and help ease their suffering.
I wonder where that $1 billion is going to come from. I think I hear that machine going burr.
But let me be clear. Our forces are not engaged and will not engage in the conflict with Russian forces in Ukraine. Our forces are not going to Europe to fight Ukraine, but to defend our NATO allies in the event that Putin decides to keep moving west. For that purpose, we have mobilized American ground forces, air squadrons, ship deployments to protect NATO countries, including Poland, Romania, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. And as I've made crystal clear, the United States and our allies will defend every inch of territory that is NATO territory with the full force of our collective power. Every single inch. And we're clear-eyed. The Ukrainians are fighting back with pure courage. But the next few days, weeks, and months will be hard on them. Putin has unleashed violence and chaos, but while he may make gains on the battlefield, he'll pay a continuing high price over the long run. And a pound of Ukrainian people, the proud, proud people, pound for pound, ready to fight with every inch of energy they have. They've known 30 years of independence, have repeatedly shown that they will not tolerate anyone who tries to take their country backwards. To all Americans, I'll be honest with you, as I always promised I would be. A Russian dictator invading a foreign country has cost around the world. And I'm taking robust action to make sure the pain of our sanctions is targeted at the Russian economy, and that we use every tool at our disposal to protect American businesses and consumers. Tonight, I can announce the United States has worked with 30 other countries to release 60 million barrels of oil from reserves around the world. America,
there it is,
will lead that effort.
Somebody made a bet that they were going to say that.
Of our own strategic petroleum reserve. And we stand ready to do more if necessary, united with our allies. These steps will help blunt gas prices here at home, but I know news about what's happening can seem alarming to all Americans. But I want you to know,
Miguel,
Somebody
we released 60 million barrels of oil for who?
For us, for here.
Okay, for us.
For
okay, I just
America.
wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. When the history of this era is written, Putin's war in Ukraine will have left Russia weaker and the rest of the world stronger. Well,
it depends. He might win, have more territory, and convert to Bitcoin and have an even stronger economy. So we don't know.
Well, it shouldn't have taken something so terrible for people around the world to see what's at stake. Now everyone sees it clearly. We see the unity among leaders of nations a more unified Europe, a more unified West. We see unity among the people who are gathering in cities and large crowds around the world, even in Russia, to demonstrate their support for the people of Ukraine. In the battle between democracy and autocracies, democracies are rising to the moment, and the world is clearly choosing the side of peace and security. This is the real test, and it's going to take time. So let us continue to draw inspiration from the iron will of the Ukrainian people. To our fellow Ukrainian Americans who forged the deep bond that connects our two nations, we stand with you. We stand with you. Putin may circle Kyiv with tanks, but he'll never gain the hearts and souls of the Iranian people. He'll never extinguish their love of freedom, and he will never weaken the resolve of the free world.
Wait, I think he might have said, according to the chat, he might have said that the 60 million barrels of oil, or whatever it was that he said, is for the world, not just for America.
We meet tonight in an America that has lived through two of the hardest years this nation has ever faced. The pandemic has been punishing, and so many families are living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to keep up with the rising cost of food, gas, housing, and so much more. I understand, like many of you did. My dad had to leave his home in Scranton, Pennsylvania to find work. So like many of you, I grew up in a family when the price of food went up, it was felt throughout the family. It had an impact. That's one of the first things I did as president was fight to pass the American Rescue Plan. Because people were hurting, we needed to act, and we did. Few pieces of legislation have done more at a critical moment in our history to lift us out of a crisis. It fueled our efforts to vaccinate the nation and combat COVID-19, delivered immediate economic relief to tens of millions of Americans. It helped put food on the table. Remember those long lines of cars waiting for hours just to get a box of food put in their trunk. It cut the cost of health care insurance. And as my dad used to say, it gave the people just a little bit of breathing room. Unlike the $2 trillion tax cut passed in the previous administration that benefited the top 1% of Americans, the American Rescue Plan.
Listen to him, you hear him booing?
The American Rescue Plan helped working people and left no one behind.
Did the right just not show up for the State of the Union? It sounds like
somebody just booed.
I know.
It worked.
I wonder if that's ever happened before. The booing.
It worked. We created jobs, lots of jobs. In fact, our economy created over 6.5 million new jobs just last year. More jobs in 1 year than ever before in the history of the United States of America.
Everybody was unemployed. Everybody just went back to work.
5.7 last year, the strongest growth rate in 40 years.
Hold on.
The strongest growth in 40 years. We have the highest inflation in 40 years, but we have the greatest growth economically in 40 years.
This is simple. He's solved the problem of the workforce. You just make sure that everyone in the nation, as many as possible, cannot work, and then you let them go back to work, and then you've created the.
I've created more jobs.
I've created more jobs than ever. What a crock.
And the first step in bringing fundamental change to our economy that hasn't worked for working people in this nation for too long. For the past 40 years, we were told that tax break for those at the top and benefits would trickle down and everyone would benefit. But that trickle-down theory led to a weaker economic growth, lower wages, bigger deficits, and a widening gap between the top and everyone else in nearly a century. Look, Vice President Harris and I ran for office, and I realize we have fundamental disagreements on this, but ran for office with a new economic vision for America. Invest in America, educate Americans, grow the workforce, build the economy from the bottom up and the middle out, not from the top down, because we know Because we know
how to lie to you.
when the middle class grows, When the middle class grows, the poor have a way up and the wealthy do very well. America used to have the best roads, bridges, and airports on earth. And now our infrastructure is ranked 13th in the world. We won't be able to compete for the jobs of the 21st century if we don't fix it. That's why it was so important to pass the bipartisan infrastructure law. And I thank my Republican friends who joined to invest and rebuild America, the single biggest investment in history. It was a bipartisan effort, and I want to thank the members of both parties who worked to make it happen. We're done talking about infrastructure weeks. We're now talking about an infrastructure decade. And look, it's going to transform America, to put us on a path to win the economic competition of the 21st century that we face with the rest of the world, particularly China. I've told Xi Jinping it's never been a good bet to bet against the American people. We'll create good jobs for millions of Americans, modernizing roads, airports, ports, waterways, all across
Look at
America.
Ted Cruz.
And we'll do it to withstand the devastating effects of climate change and promote environmental justice. We'll build a national network of 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations. Begin to replace the poisonous lead pipes so every child, every American has clean water to drink at home and at school. We're going to provide affordable, high-speed internet for every American, rural, suburban, urban, and tribal communities. 4,000 projects have already been announced. Many of you have announced them in your districts. And tonight, I'm announcing that this year, we will start fixing over 65,000 miles of highway and 1,500 bridges in disrepair. And folks,
well, these old people are going to be exhausted after this meeting. They get up and sit back down. They're doing squats all night.
When we use taxpayers' dollars to rebuild America, we're going to do it by buying America. Buy American products. Support American jobs. The federal government spends about $600 billion a year to keep this country safe and secure. There's been a law on the books for almost a century to make sure taxpayers' dollars support American jobs and businesses. Every administration, Democrat and Republican, says they'll do it, but we're actually doing it. We'll buy America to make sure everything from the deck of an aircraft carrier to the steel on highway guardrails is made in America from beginning to end. All of it. All of it. But folks, to compete for the jobs of the future, we also need a level playing field with China and other competitors. That's why it's so important to pass the Bipartisan Innovation Act sitting in Congress that will make record investments in emerging technologies and American manufacturing. We used to invest almost 2% of our GDP in research and development. We don't now. China is. Let me give you one example why it's so important to pass. If you travel 20 miles east of Columbus, Ohio, you'll find 1,000 empty acres of land. It won't look like much, but if you stop and look closely, you'll see a field of dreams, the ground on which America's future will be built. That's where Intel, the American company that helped build Silicon Valley, is going to build a $20 billion semiconductor megasite, up to 8 state-of-the-art factories in one place, 10,000 new jobs. And in those factories, the average job about $135,000 a year. Some of the most sophisticated manufacturing in the world to make computer chips the size of a fingertip, that power the world in everyday lives, from smartphones, technology to the internet, technology that's yet to be invented. But that's just the beginning. Intel CEO Pat Gelsinger, who is here tonight. I don't know where Pat is. Pat, there you go, Pat. Stand up.
By the way, Intel's also the ones getting involved with Bitcoin mining, so that could possibly be what they're trying to do
Pat.
over there.
Pat came to see me, and he told me they're ready to increase their investment from $20 billion to $100 billion. That would be the biggest investment in manufacturing in American history. And all they're waiting for is for you to pass this bill. So let's not wait any longer. Send it to my desk.
What
I'll
else do
sign
they
it,
have stuffed in that
and
bill?
we'll really take off in a big way.
Yeah, I'm just going to tell you about this one great thing in this bill, and not the other 100 million things that
Intel is not alone. There's something happening in
You
America.
see this lady? She's shaking
Just
her
look
head.
around and you'll see an amazing story. The rebirth of pride that comes from stamping products made in America. The revitalization of American manufacturing. Companies are choosing to build new factories here when just a few years ago they would have gone overseas. That's what's happening. Ford is investing $11 billion in electric vehicles, creating 11,000 jobs across the country. GM is making the largest investment in its history, $7 billion to build electric vehicles, creating 4,000 jobs in Michigan. All told, 369,000 new manufacturing jobs were created in America last year alone. Folks,
Who's this kid?
powered by people I've met like JoJo Burgess from generations of union steelworkers in Pittsburgh, who's here tonight. Where are you, JoJo? There you go. Thanks, buddy. As Ohio
Isn't that
Senator
the nutty
Sherrod Brown
professor?
says,
Look at this little kid shaking his hand.
Sherrod Brown says it's time to bury the label Rust Belt.
Pretty sure I've seen that guy in a movie
It's
before.
time to see the what used to be called Rust Belt become the home of a significant resurgence of
The
manufacturing.
vitamins are wearing off.
And with all the bright spots in our economy, record job growth, higher wages, too many families are struggling.
He
to
spoke
keep up
really
with
well so far tonight. I
Inflation
will throw that out
is
there.
robbing them of gains they thought otherwise
Just saying.
they would be able to feel. I get it.
All them vitamins.
That's why
bro.
my top
Very
priority is getting
important
prices
for
under
a big
control.
speech.
Look, our economy roared back faster than almost anyone predicted. But the pandemic meant that businesses had a hard time hiring enough people because of the pandemic to keep up production in their factories. So you didn't have people making those beams that went into buildings because they were out. The factory was closed. The panic also disrupted the global supply chain. Factories close. When that happens, it takes longer to make goods and get them to the warehouses, to the stores, and prices go up. Look at cars last year. 1/3 of all the inflation was because of automobile sales. There weren't enough semiconductors to make all the cars that people wanted to buy. And guess what? Prices of automobiles went way up, especially used vehicles as well. And so we have a choice. One way to fight inflation is to drive down wages and make Americans poorer. I think I have a better idea to fight inflation. Lower your costs, not your wages. And folks,
Well, maybe if we had better supply chains, inflation wouldn't be as high as it is right now. But since we don't manufacture anything,
that means
and now
make
you
more
realize that was a
cars
big
and
mistake.
semiconductors in America, more infrastructure and innovation in America, more goods moving faster and cheaper in America, more jobs where you can earn a good living in America. Instead of relying on foreign supply chains, let's make it in America. Look, economists,
Well, look at half the room sitting, half the room standing.
they're tired of all the squats, bro. What people don't realize that these manufacturing jobs will bring some jobs, but the
call this
majority of it will
increasing
be
the
automated.
productive capacity of
Robots.
our economy. I call it building a better America. My plan to fight inflation will lower your costs and lower the deficit.
No fucking way.
17 Nobel
Excuse me,
laureates in
sorry.
economics said my plan will ease long-term inflationary pressures. Top business leaders, and I believe most Americans support the plan. And here's the plan. First, cut the cost of prescription drugs. We pay more.
Is he really
the same
talking about that
drug
right now? Oh my God.
Produced by the same company in America than any other country in the world. Just look at
We've been talking
insulin.
about this for the past 10 years.
1 in 10 Americans has diabetes. In Virginia, I met a 13-year-old boy, the handsome young man standing up there, Joshua Davis.
13. Looks like he's 9.
Now we
He
know
and
why
his
he's there.
dad both
He's a
have
puppet.
type 1 diabetes, which means they need insulin every single day. Insulin costs about $10
just
a
doxed
vial
him.
to make. That's what it costs the pharmaceutical company. But drug companies charge families like Joshua and his dad up to 30 times that amount. I spoke with Joshua's mom. Imagine what it's like to look at your child who needs insulin to stay healthy and have no idea how in God's name you're going to be able to pay for it. What it does to your family, but what it does to your dignity, your ability to look your child in the eye, to be the parent you expect yourself to be.
Talking about
really
dignity.
mean
I
to
wonder if
think
any of
about
these
that.
people in Congress holding
what I
any of
think
those
about.
pharmaceutical stocks.
You know, yesterday, Joshua's here tonight, but yesterday was his birthday. Happy birthday, buddy, by the way. For Joshua and 200,000 other young people with type 1 diabetes, let's cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month. So everyone can afford it.
Not happening.
And drug companies will do very, very well, their profit margin.
Well, let's start with not buying their
While
stock.
we're at it, I know
when
we
you're
have
sitting
great
in the
disagreements on
Congress
this
seat.
floor with this. Let's let Medicare negotiate the price of prescription drugs.
They look so smug.
They already set the price for VA drugs. Look, the American Rescue Plan is helping millions of families with Affordable Care Act plans to save them $2,400 a year on their health premiums. Let's close the coverage gap and make these savings permanent. And second,
Look how smug Kamala Harris looks.
let's cut energy costs for families, an average of $500 a year by combating climate change. Let's provide an investment tax credits to weatherize your home.
For those of you that just joined in, first of all, thank you guys for being here. Make sure you smash the likes. Make sure that you subscribe. I want to tell you, stick around afterwards. I've got a list of notes, and we're actually going to take an objective look at what he's been talking about tonight. This is not just going to be a slam Joe Biden fest. We really want to talk through some of the things that he's talking about here. So stick around.
And your business to be energy efficient and get a tax credit for it. Double America's clean energy production in solar, wind, and so much more. Lower the price of electric vehicles, saving another $80 a month that you're not going to have to pay at the pump. Folks, the third thing we can do to change the standard of living for hardworking folks is cut the cost of child care. Cut the cost
Pelosi
of
was like,
child
I'm not
care.
going to sit down. I know we got 3 seconds before getting back up and clapping again. So
Folks, if you live in a major city in America, you pay up to $14,000 a year for child care per child. I was a single dad for 5 years, raising 2 kids. I had a lot of help, though. I had a mom, a dad, a brother, and a sister that really helped. But middle class and working folks shouldn't have to pay more than 7% of their income to care for the young children. My plan would cut the cost of child
7% of everyone's income, because that would crush that would crush some people too. Just saying.
care in half for most families. And help parents, including millions of women who left the workforce during the pandemic because they couldn't afford child care, to be able to get back to work, generating economic growth. But my plan doesn't stop there. It also includes home and long-term care, more affordable housing, pre-K for 3- and 4-year-olds. All these will lower costs to families. And under my plan, nobody, let me say this again, nobody earning less than $400,000 a year will pay an additional penny in new taxes. Not a single penny.
What he just say that earning more or less than 400?
Anyone that earns less than won't pay a
I may be
single
wrong,
penny more in taxes.
but
It's
my
just
guess
a
is
lie.
if we took a secret ballot in this floor, that we'd all agree that the present tax system ain't fair. We have to fix it. I'm not looking to punish anybody. But let's make corporations and wealthy Americans start paying their fair share. Look, last year,
That would never happen.
last year, and like Chris Coons and Tom Carper and my distinguished Congresswoman, we come from the land of corporate America. There are more corporations incorporated in America than every other state in America combined. And I still won 36 years in a row. The point is, even they understand they should pay just a fair share. Last year, 55 of the Fortune 500 companies earned $40 billion in profit and paid zero in federal taxes. Now look, it's not fair. That's why I proposed a 15% minimum tax rate for corporations. We've got, and that's why in the G7 and other meetings overseas, we're able to put together, I was able to be somewhat helpful, 130 countries agree on a global minimum tax rate. So companies can't get out of paying their taxes at home by shipping jobs and factories overseas. It'll raise billions of dollars. That's why I propose closing loopholes for the very wealthy who pay a lower tax rate than a teacher and a firefighter. So that's my plan, but we'll go in more detail later. We will grow the economy, lower the cost of families. So what are we waiting for? Let's get this done. We all know we've got to make changes.
I can't wait to talk about this after this is over.
And while you're at it, confirm my nominees for the Federal Reserve, which plays a critical role in fighting inflation. My plan will not only lower costs and give families a fair shot, it will lower the deficit. The previous administration not only ballooned the deficit with those tax cuts for the very wealthy and corporations, it
Yes, Will, this is live.
the watchdogs, the job of those to keep pandemic relief funds being wasted. Remember we had those debates?
It's the State of the
Whether or
Union.
not those watchdogs should be able to see every day how much money was being spent, where was it going to the right place? But in my administration, the watchdogs are back. And we're going to go after the criminals who stole billions of relief money meant for small business and millions of Americans. Tonight, I'm announcing that the Justice Department will soon name a chief prosecutor for pandemic fraud. And look, I think we all agree, thank you. By the end of this year, the deficit will be down to less than half of what it was before I took office. The only president ever to cut the deficit by more than $1 trillion in a single year. Lowering your cost also meant demanding more competition. I'm a capitalist, but capitalism without competition is not capitalism. Capitalism without competition is exploitation. It drives up profits. And corporations have to compete. Their profits go up and your prices go up when they don't have to compete. Small businesses and family farmers and ranchers, I need not tell some of my Republican friends from those states. Guess what? You got 4 basic meat packing facilities. That's it. You play with them or you don't get to play at all. And you pay a hell of a lot more. A hell of a lot more because there's only 4.
Bit
See
Squad
what's
in the
happening with
house.
ocean carriers moving goods in and out of America. During the pandemic, about half a dozen or less foreign-owned companies raised prices by as much as 1,000% and made record profits. Tonight, I'm announcing a crackdown on those companies overcharging American businesses and consumers. And folks, And as Wall Street firms take over more nursing homes, quality in those homes has gone down and costs have gone up. That ends on my watch. Medicare is going to set higher standards for nursing homes and make sure loved ones get the care they deserve and that they inspect and they will look at closely. We're also going to cut costs to keep the economy going strong and giving workers a fair shot, provide more training and apprenticeships, hire them based on skills, not just their degrees. Let's pass the Paycheck Fairness Act and paid leave. Raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour and extend the child tax credit so no one has to raise a family in poverty. Let's increase Pell Grants, increase our historic support for HBCUs, and invest in what Jill, our First Lady who teaches full-time, calls America's best-kept secret, community colleges. Look, let's pass the PRO Act. When a majority of workers want to form a union, they shouldn't be able to be stopped. When we invest in our workers and we build an economy from the bottom up and the middle out together, we can do something we haven't done in a long time, build a better America. For more than 2 years, COVID has impacted every decision in our lives and the life of this nation. And I know you're tired, frustrated, and exhausted. That doesn't even count the close to 1 million people who sit at a dining room table or a kitchen table and look at an empty chair because they lost somebody. But I also know this, because of the progress we've made, because of your resilience,
Elizabeth
and the
Warren.
tools that we have been provided by this Congress, tonight I can say we're moving forward safely back to more normal routines. We've reached a new moment in the fight against COVID-19.
Russia invaded Ukraine.
Cases are down to a level not seen since July of last year. Just a few days ago, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention issued a new mask guidelines. Under the new guidelines, most Americans and most of the country can now go mask-free. And based on projections, more of the country will reach a point across the next couple of weeks. And thanks to the progress we've made in the past year, COVID-19 no longer need control our lives. I know some are talking about living with COVID-19, but tonight I say that we never will just accept living with COVID-19. We'll continue to combat the virus as we do other diseases. And because this virus mutates and spreads, we have to stay on guard. And here are 4 common sense steps as we move forward safely, in my view. First, stay protected with vaccines and treatments. We know how incredibly effective vaccines are. If you're vaccinated and boosted, you have the highest degree of protection. And we'll never give up on vaccinating more Americans. Now, I know parents with kids under 5 are eager to see their vaccines authorized for their children. Scientists are working hard to get that done. We'll be ready with plenty of vaccines if and when they do. We're all ready. We are also ready with antiviral treatments. If you get COVID-19, the Pfizer pill reduces your chances of ending up in the hospital by 90%. I've ordered more pills than anyone in the world has. Pfizer's working overtime.
Side note, you know
That out
that
of
pill?
context doesn't sound nice.
I know. But side note, we'll get in this later, but you know what that pill literally is a copy of?
Oh yeah,
Ivermectin.
I know.
Ivermectin. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, let's continue.
Time to get us 1 million pills this month and more than double that next month. And now we're launching the Test to Treat initiative. So people can get tested at a pharmacy, and if they prove positive, receive the antiviral pills on the spot at no cost. And folks, if you're
So if you can take a pill, why do you need the
or
vaccine?
have some other vulnerability, we have treatments and free high-quality masks. We're leaving no one behind or ignoring anyone's needs as we move forward. On testing, we've made hundreds of millions of tests available, and you can order them for free to your doorstep. And we've already ordered free tests. If you already ordered free tests tonight, I'm announcing you can order another group of tests. Go to covidtest.gov starting next week, and you can get more tests. Second, We must prepare for new variants. Over the past, we've gotten much better at detecting new variants. If necessary, we'll be able to develop new vaccines within 100 days instead of maybe months or years. And if Congress provides the funds we need, we'll have new stockpiles of tests, masks, pills ready if needed. I can't promise a new variant won't come, but I can promise you we'll do everything within our power to be ready if it does. Third,
How long
we
does
can
this
end the
thing run?
shutdown of schools and businesses.
I don't know,
We have the
40
tools we
minutes to an
need.
hour, something like that.
It's time for America to get back to work and fill our great downtowns again with people. People working from home can feel safe and begin to return to their offices. We're doing that here
No,
in the
thank
federal
you. I'd rather stay
government.
home.
The vast majority of federal workers will once again work in person. Our schools are open. Let's keep it that way. Our kids need to be in school.
This would be elder abuse. The amount of squats that these people have done to me.
75% of adult Americans fully vaccinated, and hospitalizations down by 77%. Most Americans can remove their masks and stay in the classroom and move forward safely. We achieved this because we provided free vaccines, treatments, tests, and masks. Of course, continuing this costs money, so I'll not surprise you. I'll be back to see you all. And I'm going to soon send a request to Congress. The vast majority of Americans have used these tools and may want again. We may need them again, so I expect Congress, and I hope you'll pass that quickly. Fourth, we'll continue vaccinating the world. We've sent 475 million vaccine doses to 112 countries, more than any nation on earth. We won't stop.
Pfizer, Mectin. I love it, Penelope.
Because you can't build a wall high enough to keep out a vaccine. The vaccine can stop the spread of these diseases.
I
You know,
saw
we've
where that
lost so
joke was
much in
going,
COVID-19.
but it didn't go.
Yeah.
It didn't go so
Time
well.
with one another.
No,
The worst of all, the much loss of life.
he's losing it.
Let's use this moment to reset. So stop looking at COVID as a partisan dividing line.
Said it.
See
Reset.
it for what it is, a god-awful disease. Let's stop seeing each other as enemies and start seeing each other for who we are, fellow Americans. Look, we can't change how divided we've been. It was a long time in coming. But we can change how to move forward on COVID-19 and other issues that we must face together.
Just as a reminder, guys, we are going to we're going to talk through this afterwards, so stick around.
I recently visited New York City Police Department days after the funerals of Officer Wilbur Mora and his partner, Officer Jason Rivera. They were responding to a 9/11 call when a man shot and killed them with a stolen gun. Officer Moore was 27 years old. Officer Rivera was 22 years old. Both Dominican Americans who grew up in the same streets that they later chose to patrol as police officers. I spoke with their families, and I told them that we were forever in debt for their sacrifices and will carry on their mission to restore the trust and safety of every community deserves. Like some of you that have been around for a while, I've worked with you on these issues for a long time. I know what works. Investigating crime prevention and community policing, cops who walk the beat, who know the neighborhood, and who can restore trust and safety. Let's not abandon our streets or choose between safety and equal justice. Let's come together and protect our communities, restore trust, and hold law enforcement accountable. That's why the Justice Department has required body cameras, banned chokeholds, and restricted no-knock warrants for its officers. That's why the American Rescue Plan that you all provided $350 billion that cities, states, and counties can use to hire more police, invest in more proven strategies. Proven strategies like
wearing off on, or starting to rub off on me.
Proven strategies like community violence interruption, trusted messengers, breaking the cycle of violence and trauma, and giving young people some hope. We should all agree the answer is not to defund the police, it's to fund the police. Fund them.
Some people aren't going to like that.
Fund them. Fund them with resources and training. Resources and training they need to protect our communities. I ask Democrats and Republicans alike to pass my budget and keep our neighborhoods safe. And we'll do everything in my power to crack down on gun trafficking of ghost guns that you can buy online, assemble at home, no serial numbers, can't be traced. I ask Congress to pass proven measures to reduce gun violence. Pass universal background checks. Why should anyone on the terrorist list be able to purchase a weapon? Why? Why? And folks, ban assault weapons with high-capacity magazines hold up to 100 rounds. You think the deer are wearing Kevlar vests? Look, repeal the liability shield. It makes gun manufacturers the only industry in America that can't be sued. The only one. Imagine had we done that with the tobacco manufacturers. These laws don't infringe on the Second Amendment. They save lives. The most fundamental right in America is the right to vote and have it counted. And look, it's under assault. In state after state, new laws have been passed. Not only to suppress the vote, we've been there before, but to subvert the entire election. We can't let this happen. Yeah, tonight I call on the Senate to pass the Freedom to Vote Act, pass the John Lewis Act, Voting Rights Act. And while you're at it, pass the Disclose Act so Americans know who's funding our election. Look.
All right, put on the blockchain, tonight, big boy. See if you got,
I'd like to honor someone who dedicated his life to serve this country. Justice Breyer, an Army veteran, constitutional scholar, retiring Justice of the United States Supreme Court. Justice Breyer, thank you for your service. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean it. Get up, stand, let them see you. Thank you.
He said, bro, I'm tired of squatting all night. Stop telling me to stand up.
And we all know, no matter what your ideology, we all know one of the most serious constitutional responsibility a president has is nominating someone to serve on the United States Supreme Court. As I did 4 days ago, I've nominated the Circuit Court of Appeals, Ketanji Brown Jackson, one of our nation's top legal minds, who continue in Justice Breyer's legacy of excellence. A former top litigator in private practice, a former federal public defender, from a family of public school educators and police officers. She's a consensus builder. Since she's been nominated, she's received a broad range of support, including the Fraternal Order of Police and former judges supported by Democrats and Republicans. Folks, if we are to advance liberty and justice, we need to secure our border and fix the immigration system.
And the problem has been known for the past 2 years.
Ted Cruz is standing up. There's the whole room standing up for that.
He was there. He went to the border.
Yes, I think we can do both.
I know.
At our border, we've installed new technology like cutting-edge scanners to better detect drug smuggling. We've set up joint patrols with Mexico and Guatemala to catch more human traffickers. We're putting in place dedicated immigration judges in a significant larger number so families fleeing persecution and violence can have their cases heard faster, and those who don't legitimately hear can be sent back. We're screening, we're securing commitments and supporting partners in South and Central America to host more refugees and secure their own borders. We can do all this while keeping lit the torch of liberty that has led the generation of immigrants to this land. my forebears and many of yours. Provide a pathway to citizenship for dreamers, those with temporary status, farm workers, essential workers. Revise our laws so businesses have workers they need and families don't wait decades to reunite. It's not only the right thing to do, it's economically smart thing to do. That's why the immigration reform is supported by everyone from labor unions to religious leaders to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Let's get it done once and for all. Folks, advancing liberty and justice also requires protecting the rights of women. The constitutional right affirmed by Roe v. Wade, standing precedent for half a century, is under attack as never before. If you want to go forward, not backwards, we must protect access to health care, preserve a woman's right to choose, and continue to advance maternal health care for all Americans.
That lady was like, I thought we were here to speak about Ukraine.
And folks, for our LGBTQ plus Americans, let's finally get the Bipartisan Equality Act to my desk. The onslaught of state laws targeting transgender Americans and their families, it's simply wrong. And I said last year, especially to our younger transgender Americans, I'll always have your back as your president so you can be yourself and reach your God-given potential. Folks, as I've just demonstrated, while it often appears we do not agree, and that we do agree on a lot more things than we acknowledge. I signed 80 bipartisan bills into law last year, from preventing government shutdowns, to protecting aging Americans from still too common hate crimes, to reforming military justice, and will soon be strengthening the Violence Against Women Act that I first wrote 3 decades ago. And it's important. It's important for us to show the nation we can come together and do big things. So tonight I'm offering a unity agenda for the nation. 4 big things we can do together, in my view. First, beat the opioid epidemic. There's so much we can do. Increase funding for prevention, treatment, harm reduction, and recovery. Get rid of outdated rules and stop doctors that stop doctors from prescribing treatments. Stop the flow of illicit drugs by working with state and local law enforcement to go after the traffickers. And if you're suffering from addiction, you should know you're not alone. I believe in recovery, and I celebrate the 23 million Americans in recovery. Second, let's take on mental health, especially among our children whose lives and education have been turned upside down. The American Rescue Plan gave schools money to hire teachers and help students make up for lost learning. I urge every parent to make sure your school does just that. They have the money. We can all play a part. Sign up to be a tutor or a mentor. Children were also struggling before the pandemic: bullying, violence, trauma, and the harms of social media. As Frances Haugen, who is here tonight with us, has shown, we must hold social media platforms accountable for the national experiment they're conducting on our children for profit. Folks, thank you. Thank you for the courage you showed. It's time to strengthen privacy protections, ban targeted advertising to children, demand tech companies stop collecting personal data on our children, and let's get all Americans the mental health services they need. More people can turn for help, and full parity between physical and mental health care if we treat it that way in our insurance. Look, the third piece of that agenda is support our veterans. Veterans are the backbone and the spine of this country. They're the best of us. I've always believed that we have a sacred obligation to equip those we send to war and care for those and their family when they come home. My administration providing assistance in job training and housing, and now helping lower-income veterans get VA care debt-free. And our troops in Iraq in Afghanistan have faced many dangers, one being stationed at bases breathing in toxic smoke from burn pits. Many of you have been there. I've been in and out of Iraq and Afghanistan over 40 times. These burn pits that incinerate waste, the waste of war, medical and hazardous material, jet fuel, and so much more. And they come home, many of the world's fittest and best trained warriors in the world, never the same. Headaches, numbness, dizziness, a cancer that would put them in a flag-draped coffin. I know.
Oh.
One of those soldiers was my son, Major Bo Biden. I don't know for sure if the burn pit that he lived near, that his hooch was near in Iraq and earlier than that in Kosovo, is the cause of his brain cancer, the disease of so many other troops. But I am committed to find out everything we can, committed to military families like Danielle Robinson from Ohio, the widow of Sergeant First Class Heath Robinson. He was born a soldier, Army National Guard, combat medic in Kosovo and Iraq, stationed near Baghdad, just yards from burn pits the size of football fields. Danielle is here with us tonight. They love going to Ohio State football games. And he loved building Legos with their daughter. But cancer from prolonged exposure to burn pits ravaged Heath's lungs and body. Danielle says Heath was a fighter to the very end. He didn't know how to stop fighting, and neither did she. Through her pain, she found purpose to demand that we do better. Tonight, Danielle, we are going to do better. The VA is pioneering new ways of linking toxic exposure to disease, already helping more veterans get benefits. And tonight, I'm announcing we're expanding eligibility to veterans suffering from 9 respiratory cancers. I'm also calling on Congress to pass a law to make sure veterans devastated by toxic exposure in Iraq and Afghanistan finally get the benefits and the comprehensive health care they deserve.
Somebody in the background really took their vitamins tonight.
Nancy Pelosi is just.
Popped up on something.
And last, let's end cancer as we know it.
Get the.
This is personal.
It'd be nice if it wasn't such a big money machine. That ain't gonna happen. Don't lie to the people.
You're not gonna end cancer. Come on, man.
This is personal to me and to Jill and to Kamala and so many of you. So many of you have lost someone you love. Husband, wife, son, daughter, mom, dad.
Of course.
Cancer is the #2 cause of death in America, second only to heart disease.
Oh, that's not true, by
Last
the way.
month, I announced the plan to supercharge the cancer moonshot that President Obama asked me to lead 6 years ago. Our goal is to cut cancer death rates by at least 50% over the next 25 years. And I think we can do better than that.
It's car
Turn
wrecks and
cancers
overdoses, by the way.
from death sentences into treatable diseases. More support for patients and their families. To get there, I call on Congress to fund what I called ARPA-H, Advanced Research Projects Agency for Health, patterned after DARPA and the Defense Department. Projects that led in DARPA to the internet, GPS, and so much more to make our forces more safer and be able to wage war with more clarity. ARPA will have a singular purpose: to drive breakthroughs in cancer, Alzheimer's and diabetes, and more. a unity agenda for the nation. We can do these things. It's within our power. And I don't see a partisan edge to any one of those four things. My fellow Americans, tonight, we've gathered in this sacred space, a citadel of democracy, in this Capitol. Generation after generation of Americans have debated great questions amid great strife and have done great things. We fought for freedom, expanded liberty, debated totalitarianism and terror.
Oh, boy.
We built the strongest, freest, and most prosperous nation the world has ever known. Now is the hour, our moment of responsibility, our test of resolve and conscience, of history itself. It is in this moment that our character of this generation is formed. Our purpose is found. Our future is forged. Well, I know this nation. We'll meet the test, protect freedom and liberty, expand fairness and opportunity, and we will save democracy. As hard as those times have been, I'm more optimistic about America today than I've been my whole life, because I see the future that's within our grasp, because I know there's simply nothing beyond our capacity. We're the only nation on earth that has always turned every crisis we've faced into an opportunity. The only nation that can be defined by a single word: possibilities. So on this night, on our 245th year as a nation, I've come to report on the state of the nation, the State of the Union. And my report is this: the State of the Union is strong because you, the American people, are strong. We are stronger today. We are stronger today than we were a year ago. And we'll be stronger a year from now than we are today. This is our moment to meet and overcome the challenges of our time. And we will, as one people, one America, the United States of America. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you. Go get him.
Let's take this guy off the screen. He's talked enough.
So, all right. So I've got a. So first of all, crypto fam, thank you guys for hanging out. We and I just want to reiterate here, right? We are gonna try to talk about this as
It's an objective speech. It's what he said. What does it really mean, right? Reading
questions.
in between the lines of what he is saying.
Question.
It doesn't matter that he's a Democrat. It could be a Republican. It could be a Libertarian standing up there. It'd be the exact same objective truth about what he is saying.
Question everything. Trust nothing. So let's question some things.
100%.
All right. So first of all, I guess I kind of want to start kind of back from the start and then work our way up through here. We don't have to hit all of these, but I guess my first question is, because it's one of the biggest things that's happening right now. You know, he said that the free world was, quote, holding Russia accountable. Right. And Miguel, you chimed in and said, you know, they're holding them, you know, financially accountable. One of the things that I've been told, though, and that I've read and that I've heard, is that it's only a limited number of banks. And ultimately, listen, if you don't think that these institutions know how to get around these sanctions, because it's not every single bank, and they have openly admitted, well, it's certain banks, certain, you know, and if you don't think that money is being moved around, you're crazy. But I think that it ultimately opens up for the idea, like we were talking about, that you know, alternative currency. You know, I don't want them to move over to the Chinese yuan, but at the same time, I believe they've loaded up on Bitcoin. They were even talking about it recently.
There's absolutely no way that they did not foresee that this was going to happen, right? Oh, we're going to invade a country that's surrounded by NATO countries, and no, they're not going to hit us with any sanctions. Of course not.
Yeah,
right?
They absolutely knew.
So they knew this was coming, and the only way that they were going to be able to hold out is if they adopted an alternative currency. They knew that their native currency was going to dump. They knew that all these things were going to happen to them. You don't just invade a country blindly and just not have advisors telling you ahead of time, hey, this is what we're going to get hit with if we do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, they definitely talk all this through. There's not a doubt about that. I actually I loved where, he's got Nancy Pelosi sitting over his shoulder, right? And he starts talking about ill-begotten gains. We literally have the woman over his left-hand shoulder that has probably had more ill-begotten gains from the stock market than anyone in history. She literally, statistically, is the greatest stock trader to ever walk freaking planet Earth. It's out of control, and
I
you
mean,
want to talk about ill-begotten gains. It's
yeah,
just like,
and talking
get out
about
of
the
here.
gains, right? Let's jump a little forward real quick to the whole pharmaceutical companies, what they were talking about.
Oh,
They invest in all these pharmaceutical companies. They invest in all these pharmaceutical companies. They also said, "Oh, weapons, right? Manufacturer companies that manufacture weapons or whatever are the only ones that cannot be sued."
it's not
Really?
true. The vaccine
What happened
companies
the
can't.
last 2 years? What
That's right.
happened the last 2 years?
And you know what I thought was crazy, Miguel? He said this. He said antivirals from Pfizer. No, he said Pfizer antivirals. Right? Why do we need the company name on it? Right? Like every single news broadcast in the last 2 years, brought to you by Pfizer. Brought to
The,
you
the
by
only the
Pfizer.
only
Thank
difference
you,
here was that
Pfizer.
it wasn't disclosed as a paid promotion
Yeah, I know,
in this
right?
speech.
I know. He didn't even hashtag it. He just threw it out there, didn't tell anybody it was a paid
Didn't even
promotion.
drop a comment below the video like, "Hey, this is
That's right.
paid promo."
That's right. But we know. We know. Yeah, and so, okay, the 30% drop in the ruble, which is, Russia's,
Native
money,
currency.
right? Their native currency, and a 40% drop in their stock market. Let's talk about how that affects us.
Uh, I don't think it affects us directly. We do import, right? A lot of people were talking about it. We do import a ton of oil from
Mhm.
them.
Yep.
I believe it's like 7%.
It's a
It
lot.
comes in from them, which is represents a large amount. And talking about these sanctions that they've done, they've weaponized the money.
Yeah.
That's what they've done. In 1945 and World War II, Germany was still able to do trade and do business through the International Switzerland Bank that they had. They had a connection. I forgot the name of the bank or whatever it was, and they were able to still do business
Right.
even though they were at a world war. And I'm not trying to diminish the things that Russia is doing right now. I'm not trying to defend them at all, but I'm just pointing at something that has been happening now. They're weaponizing money, and money is still not even smart yet. It's still fiat money. Once
Yeah.
money becomes smart money, programmable money, the weapon will only get bigger
Stronger
and bigger.
and stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. I think that them crushing their currency and shutting down and their stock market shutting down, I think does one thing in particular, and it not besides just causing chaos for the people. I think that ultimately it makes people flee to different options. Gold is up, Bitcoin is up. That's just a fact right now, right?
I mean,
And
yeah,
so
the volume that's coming from Russia, from
it's
rubles to
huge.
Bitcoin, is
It's
huge
huge.
right now. Huge.
Huge. Because they have to. They're fleeing, and so that's
Mhm.
kind of what I was getting at with
Yeah,
how that
they're gonna get hit with hyperinflation. So if you
that
guys haven't heard me talk about that, I literally talked about it. I covered it in the video before this one about 4 hours ago. I published it more in depth. Go check that out.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's going, but it is causing them to flee to another option, which so far has looked like it's been Bitcoin. So we're giving $1 billion to Ukraine. The reality is, anytime we're giving away money, it's coming from somewhere, right? The Even if you just print the money, you're devaluing the dollar, which then ultimately gets passed along to. It's just economics, folks, right? So my question is, where, fine, like, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be trying to support Ukraine. My question is, though, where is this money going to continue to come from? They're still talking about raising interest rates. It's going to be half of what it was about what they were planning on doing. Instead of going up 50 basis points, they're going to knock it up maybe 25 basis
I
points. But
doubt it. I doubt it that even that's gonna happen. I think it's gonna
so
be extremely small.
so I've been listening to some economists today, and the economists are saying actually that if the Federal Reserve wants to save face and continue to actually push towards making things better, they have to raise excuse me, they have to raise interest rates at least a little bit, but it'll be half of what. So whatever, we'll see. But ultimately, I actually heard that from
It'll
a
be
couple of different
insignificant.
people that it'll be insignificant compared to what it was. It'll be
Insignificant.
half
And if
of
they
what it
don't,
was.
you know,
It's already
Biden's
priced
going to
in.
come out and say it didn't happen because this critical person that I'm appointing hasn't gone through yet. It's them. They are the ones that are going to save us. We need
It's
to put
already
this
priced
person in the
in.
Federal Reserve.
Yeah, it's already priced in anyway. So I mean that is what it is. So this American Rescue Plan, he started talking about inflation. The American Rescue Plan. Do you know anything about that? That was my question to you.
No.
I know nothing about what that plan is, so I just wrote it down. I didn't know anything about what it was. In the chat, if you guys know what the American Rescue Plan is, or at least the idea behind it, I'd love to hear it, because we got into he started talking about the $2 trillion tax cuts that were for the wealthy from the previous, from our previous president, that you heard a lot of boos coming from that, right? But my question is, the next thing he said, or well, one of the next things he said was that more jobs were created than ever. And I have a real problem with this. The reality is more jobs were stripped from people than ever. More jobs and businesses and small businesses were shut down and told that they were not allowed to work, that they were not allowed to operate. Yet all of the big businesses were able to continue. And so you have mom and pop shops that are making menial wages, that are supporting their families, that might be all the money their family has, and they had to shut down because they are not, whatever the word they used for it was, they did not have to continue to work. They didn't need them. And I have a real problem with that, because ultimately the only reason that you can even try to claim, and I can't even believe you can say it with a straight face, but the only reason you can even try to claim that you've created more jobs than ever is, it's simple. If I went out onto my job sites tomorrow and started firing everybody on every job site, right? Just, hey, you're fired, get out of here, right? And then I come back the next day and I start hiring a bunch of people, and then I go around with a big sign campaigning, letting people know, do you know how many new people I took off of the unemployment line this week and put in my company? I mean,
Exactly.
I'm just saying, guys, I'm doing good things here. All right.
Exactly.
That's disgusting. That's just terrible. I have a real problem with that. Because the big businesses were able to continue, to continue to do. Let's talk about this Intel thing.
Well, before we get into the Intel stuff, he talked about the whole, if you make what is it, $400,000, if you make a drop a penny less than that, you will not be getting a single cent up in taxes. That's a lie.
That's
right?
a
Inflation
straight
in
up lie.
of its own is a tax that's already coming, and it's going to get bigger, right?
Yeah.
That aside, you're not going to get any tax breaks because you make less than 400,000, and then these taxes that he keeps talking about that he's going to put on people that make over 400,000. What does that tell you? That tells you you're never going to make it to over 400,000. You're never going to get there, because whenever you try approaching that peak, you're going to get hit with massive taxes, and back down you go. So it's another barrier that they just added that you will never be able to leap over, right? Or just another obstacle to help to really make you struggle to leap over to get to that next phase in life of financial freedom. So
Sean said the American Rescue Plan was part of the stimulus bill passed year. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate that. I was not positive what part of what bill that was from. But yeah, I agree, Miguel. 400, if you make less than 400K, we're not going to raise your taxes at all. Here's the reality. The money has to come from somewhere. Okay. And the wealthy understand the idea of having debt, right? And leveraging their assets to not pay these taxes. Well, it's got to come from somewhere. You can't just start, they can't just start saying, well, we're gonna, tax this, just totally like basically change all of the freaking rules. No, the reality is it does have to come from somewhere. It does. When you raise minimum wage, right, and you don't raise the top end wage earners, ultimately what's that do? That raises the cost of goods. Where do those goods go? Those goods go to the consumer. Who's now paying more for that? The consumer. If they're not a bottom end, then they haven't raised their wages, and now they're paying for more. So in the end of the day, it is literally a big freaking Ponzi scheme where the money is going from here to here to here, and you're paying it one way or the other.
And the corporate tax that they were talking about, adding a base of 15% on corporate taxes, and we're going to bring more manufacturing to America more than ever. Yeah, we're going to raise corporate taxes. You know what that means? That means that all the jobs, all these that extra 15% of jobs that factory could have been making is not going to be hiring that extra 15% because they
No.
got to pay those taxes,
Automated.
right? They're going to automate it on top of the 15% that they're not going to hire because of the tax bases. They're also going to automate more. So the amount of manufacturing might be coming to America and be American build, but the amount of jobs that is coming along with that is not going to really be a significant amount. That is why they're coming back. That's the only reason why. They're just going to automate the process in the first place and then make themselves look good.
Now we've got this Intel. So I live in Columbus, for those of you that don't know, just outside of Columbus, a couple miles. So Columbus, for those of you that don't know, in Ohio. And there is a massive, and it hasn't, to my understanding, hasn't been built yet, but they're talking about a massive mega gigafactory or whatever for Intel. And you know what? I think, Miguel, I've heard this as well. Intel has been talking about Bitcoin mining, correct?
Yes.
Or making the chips
they are
for
producing a new chip, a new ASIC miner. They're trying to create a more sustainable situation for Bitcoin mining. And I 100% believe that is going to be correlated to that manufacturing plant that they were talking about. That's what Intel is trying to do, right? America is trying to get into the Bitcoin mining game. 100%. They can deny it. They can try to keep it hush-hush as much as they want. But that is what's happening. That is why, and I'm sure that this Intel manufacturing that's happening are going to get tax incentives. They're not going to pay those extra taxes that this guy's talking about. They're just not going to. You want Bitcoin mining machines? I ain't paying taxes, buddy. That's the way it works.
Yeah, the reality is that, and this is what we're talking about, the tax money has to come from somewhere. There basically has to be incentives for some of these massive companies to do some of the things to the idea is that if these massive companies, for those of you don't know, the idea is that these massive companies inject basically liquidity into the community. They put jobs out into the community. They ultimately, thanks, Mind Your Biz. What's up, Seth? They ultimately provide a service, as many would call it, to the community, and people will flood to that community. More people are able to live there. They'll be able to buy. It stimulates the economy. But the reality is they have to be stimulated. Their back has to be scratched as well. And the way that they scratch that is by giving them, like Miguel was talking about, tax breaks. So at the end of the day, the tax money has to come from somewhere. Listen, he literally talked about lowering costs for inflation, right? How is he going to lower costs, right? The inflation's so high. How is that going to happen? He talked about child care costs lowered, right? Taxes, right? All of the things that were spoke about. My dad actually told me this when I was younger, and I didn't understand it until probably the last maybe 5 years or so. My dad always explained to me the reason that he voted one way or the other. I'm not going to get into the specifics on that, but he explained to me that basically that money does have to come from somewhere. And when all of these great plans are happening that cost money, they cost money, and it's not coming out of these great leaders' pockets. It is coming out of the average Joe, the American worker. And if it's not, it is a backdoor tax, such as something like inflation. So the reality is all of these things are a freaking pipe dream. I hate to say it. I'm not trying. I don't care if it was Donald Trump standing up. I don't care who was standing there. Basically, he rattled off. Somebody said in the chat earlier, so what's he going to be president for 27 years? He rattled off curing cancer, right? So ultimately what I'm trying to say is I understand it's the State of the Union, but let's talk about what the State of the Union really is. We are in a worse situation than we have been in a long time. And anybody in the chat, I would challenge you to tell me how that's not the case, right? Drop a 1 in the chat if you believe that the United States is in a more precarious situation than they've been in a long, long time. Drop a 2 if you think that things are just peachy. I just don't believe it. I don't buy it.
The only way cancer gets cured is if a new disease that's better at making money than cancer comes around.
Yeah.
That's the only way they cure cancer. Once
I bet you I can tell you who cures cancer. Pfizer.
No, they not even, dude.
But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, it's never gonna happen. It's a huge money game. And unless that goose dries up,
$35 a month insulin. $35 a month insulin. $35 a month insulin. That is one of those talking points, right? That just says, look over here. I'm gonna do. Here's what I hate about the
Dude,
politicians. They make empty promises. They make empty statements, and they ultimately say, "We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. We're gonna listen." Just do. Why don't you do something good? I just haven't seen anything good, and I'm just really, I'm just
I'm
sad.
telling
I'm
you,
sad for our country, man.
for these empty promises, like I've said before, we got to put these politicians on smart contracts. They run on something, they promise something, they come out in a speech saying, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. Hey, add that to the smart contract real quick.
That's a
Oh,
great
smart
idea, man.
contracts not completed, you're booted, you're out of here, you're donezo. Don't come
You
back.
have X amount of time to execute on your plan.
Don't run again. You didn't make good on your promise. You are a rug pull. You get out of here. You are not verified.
So the
You're
smart
not getting the blue check mark. You're done.
So the smart contract basically says, okay, if you're going to put out a promise, right, we're putting it on the blockchain and it's going to be via a smart contract. That smart contract then says, okay, if you're so don't promise me something unless you're prepared to put it on the blockchain, baby. And then ultimately they put it out there and say, okay, you've got X amount of time via the smart contract, depending on what the legislation is, to get this done. And if you don't, guess what? There'd be a lot less promises because people would be losing their jobs.
Exactly right. You wouldn't have these Congress people in Congress for 40, 30, 40, 50 years, right? Man. Just sitting there making you promise after promise. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Biden said it himself 30 years ago. He supposedly wrote something about women's equality or women's rights. And now it might come to fruition 30 years ago. Not by the standards of a smart contract, you're not, bro. You would not have been in office 30 years later.
Got to get it done this term, son. That's
still trying to get that same one thing done, right?
Nope, you want to run again? You
At
better
the same
get it
time,
done.
Yeah, he mentioned, oh, let's make voting more clear. Let's make make sure that it's clarified and seen and all this stuff, whatever it was that he said, the exact words. Let's put that on the blockchain. Let's put voting on the blockchain and let's see exactly where the votes are coming from and who they're going for. And then we will see if elections are fair or not. And we won't have to be worrying about counting votes all night long and magical numbers appearing overnight.
I'm with it, bro. I'm here for it. I ultimately, one of the things that I heard said also that was kind of scary was we've talked about global minimum tax rates. So we're talking about global and tax rates in the same sentence. Okay, guess what? The reality is, if you go around the world right now and talk to all of these different countries, these different provinces, different state, I mean, you have different tax rules everywhere, right? If we're talking about global minimum tax rates, that assumes.
Sorry to cut you off, but this is a perfect example of what we were just talking about the smart contracts.
Yeah.
If you don't do your job exactly how they want you to, you're out of there, right?
You lose.
So why is it they're the only ones that they can make promises, not do the job that they're supposed to be doing, and still stay hired?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And so, yeah, we're talking about global minimum tax. So the reality is we're saying, hey, they are putting it out there in front of you now that we are working towards, guys. Listen, I've been called a conspiracy theorist, right? Now a lot of people just call me correct. Okay. But global minimum tax rates is talking about, right, just like Miguel said, globalism. We are talking about the new world order, and it is more and more and more just being talked about. Yeah, I mean, it's scary. It is the world is scary right now.
It's the weaponization of money. The entire world is coming together, or these these government agencies, these whoever you want to call them, elitists, whatever it is that you want to call them, are coming together and putting rules to weaponize money against people. If you don't do A, you're not going to get B. And if you want to get B, you're going to have to do A, B, C, and D. Right. And it's all going to happen through global pressure. There's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to hide. You're just going to have to deal with it.
Yeah. I don't want to dive into this one. I just want to touch it and go. For the longest time, getting vaccines, took years and years and years and years. And the fact that we are promoting the fact that we're going to be able to do these in 100 days is flat out freaking scary, because
why do we need it? Now we have a pill. with 90% effectiveness.
But I'm just talking about, he was talking about new stuff, when the new
Yep.
variants, when this, that, and the third. The reality is it's not enough time. But here's what I want to kind of round it up with, Miguel. He said that we have the strongest, freest America ever. Folks, listen, here's the hard truth. I fought for this country, United States Marine Corps, and we ultimately are in probably, quite possibly, the least of what that was, the opposite of that. We are dangerously close to authoritarianism. We are dangerously close to moving towards that. If you don't do what I say when I say, how, you can't say that, you can't do that, you can't be that, you can't look like that, you've got to agree with this. I mean, it is not a free nation at this point. You are not free to say what you want. Miguel, you and I can't say what we want to say on here right now for fear of either being canceled or they're going to demonetize us. We've already said
more than enough in this episode to get probably demonetized at some point from this episode, because a lot of buzzwords that were said here that we probably should never be saying because of the censorship that there is on platforms like this, right? And just it's not free. It's not the strongest America that we've ever had. We have the weakest leaders ever. We have the weakest people of generations ever alive right now. Everybody just wants to stay home, Netflix and chill, and nobody wants to be. Everybody is woke, but everybody's still sleeping. But they're woke, right? We are not the strongest we've ever been. We are not.
So, Crypto Fam, I want to tell you guys, I am going to be on vacation as of tomorrow. I will do my best to be on a couple live streams, but you're going to have to deal with Miguel.
That's right, baby. It's the Blockchain Crusader show from here on out. I'm dropping the dead weight. Let's go.
You are going to be with the premiere of the two. You're going to be with Miguel quite a bit this next week or so. So I'll be in and out. I just wanted to tell you guys, we appreciate you. We really do. We appreciate that you guys stayed here. If you were here from start to finish and you listened to all of this and all we've got to say, you are a freaking champion. And if you didn't, we still love you. If nobody's told you before today, we love you. Guys, we're going to wrap it up. Just remember to question everything,
trust nothing,